50 years today since the death, or rather the murder, of Ahmed Timol, after he was pushed out of the window of the 10th floor of the John Vorster Square police station. Timol had been questioned and then interrogated for hours about his role in the liberation struggle. The person who was charged with his murder, the former police officer Joao Rodriguez, died earlier this year. Ismail Vadi was one of the people marking his death, marking the death of Timol. Ismail Vadi is at the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, former MEC in Gauteng. Mr. Vadi, good afternoon to you, and thank you for your time. I mean, if we look at how important this case was in 1971 and how important this case is now in terms of trying to get justice for Ahmed Timol, it shows you how important today actually is.
Today is an absolutely important day. We commemorate the death of Ahmed Timol. Exactly 50 years ago, he was killed at the old John Vorster Square police station in the security division. And for the last 50 years, we're trying to uncover the truth of whether he was murdered, who was responsible, who can be held accountable, so that the family can get closure on the matter.
I mean, one of the great sadnesses of this moment is, as you say, Ahmed Timol's family tried very hard to get justice for him. They forced an inquest. They hoped for justice at the beginning of democracy. They didn't get it. And now it seems the person who did kill him, we understand, escaped justice. There was no proper legal accountability. And there are so many cases like this.
I think that's absolutely correct. I mean, it's not just about Timol. There's a whole number of people, Steve Biko, for example. Many families and the nation at large can't bring closure to these matters. And the tragedy is that whilst the Truth and Reconciliation Commission did an important, sterling work in terms of uncovering apartheid abuses, gross human rights, etc., it left behind unfinished business, in the sense that a number of people did not give disclosure at all. Some gave half-truths and some gave the truth. And in this particular instance, as in so many others, we have not reached the truth as to what actually happened. Were they murdered? Who murdered them? And who can be held accountable? So I think there's a number of things. One is that we've got to complete the work of the Truth Commission. And now individual families are pushing for, separate inquiries or inquests. We've just had the one of Ahmed Timol a few years ago. A few weeks ago, we've had the inquest of Dr. Hussein Hafaji in Pietermaritzburg, and these are beginning to provide important revelations as to what actually transpired in those last moments when people were killed. But the most important thing is this, that those who have escaped justice, who were the perpetrators of these deadly and harmful deeds, they must be held accountable. If they had given full disclosure to the Truth Commission, I think the nation and the families would have the big heart to forgive them. But because we haven't got full disclosure, then I think the accountability principle must kick in, and there must be legal consequences.
I mean, what's astonishing was in the case of Ahmed Timol, his family basically, and driven in large part by his nephew, had to basically force an inquest. The same in the case of Nokuthuma Simelane, Dr. Hafaji that you mentioned. There have been so many others. Neil Agate I could mention. There are many, many others. What is amazing is that the NPA, the Justice Department, has done nothing. I mean, really, they can say what they like, but they've done nothing in the last 26, 27 years.
Well, I think that's a matter of serious concern. It behoves society to really put pressure on the NPA. We know that in the last few years, I mean, the NPA has been severely weakened in terms of state capture and hollowing out of the institution. But that on its own should not be an excuse. There should be the political will on the part of political office bearers, and then institutional capability to actually prosecute. I get the sense that, people are just trying to dump a sand of heap over the past and think that, the past will be buried. I don't think it's as easy as that. History has shown that, I mean, unless there's real accountability and culpability, these wounds will remain open, they'll fester on, and at some point, I mean, the authorities will be forced to reopen these investigations, as either through an inquest or through legal proceedings. And the quicker we do that, I think it will be a healing process for the families concerned, for the many comrades and friends of so many of these people, of our leaders really, who gave their lives for our freedom.
Ahmed Timol died while fighting for freedom. He was fighting for a free South Africa. He was fighting in a way for all South Africans in 1971, in some ways the height of apartheid. We are, I think, politically speaking, a free country now. We're not necessarily economically free. Our, issues around race, but really racialized inequality, perhaps, still define our society. I know it's an impossible question, but I mean, how do you think he would view South Africa now? So much work to be done despite political freedom?
I think he would have mixed feelings about the current state of affairs in our country. Of course, a lot of good has been done. I mean, homes have been built, basic services have been rolled out. We do have now almost, mass education, particularly at primary school level. So these are important gains. But if we look at the levels of poverty and inequality and unemployment, these are time bombs that we are sitting on and could lead to a social explosion at any point in time. And then if we look at corruption, how endemic it has become, how systemic it has become, I don't think any one of them gave their, his or her life for this kind of a society, for a corrupt society where a handful of, either politicians or public servants and a handful of business people have really, amassed large quantities and large sums of money for their private benefit. And there are serious questions about the integrity of the processes by which they acquired that wealth. So I think they would have severe mixed feelings. I have no doubt that should any one of those leaders that were killed in detention, if they were alive today, for them it would mean that the struggle continues.
There's a big event. I mean, there was an event, I think a smaller event this morning to remember Ahmed Timol. There's a bigger event tonight. The Gauteng Premier is there. The Justice Minister himself is due to be speaking. Do you think, with everything, there's going to be more of a push to get justice for victims of apartheid like Ahmed Timol?
I think the fight must go on. It's to the credit to really Ahmed Timol's nephew, Imtiaz Kaji, for sometimes just alone fighting. That's really what he's put up. And he's now obviously linked up with other families who are experiencing a similar fate. And they've got a grouping going to really push for the reopening of certain inquests and the reopening of certain investigations. But I think what we need is a broader push from civil society. If the authorities don't have the political will and the administrative will to proceed with it, then it behoves society to put on the pressure, and really it's civil society. The tragic thing, for example, today, this event this afternoon at 5 o'clock was supposed to have been held at the Johannesburg Central Police Station. The Kathrada Foundation had secured the relevant approvals and permission from the police authorities, only to be found or to be told yesterday that the event cannot be held at the police station itself. So we're now going to have it on the street right opposite the police station. I think it says something. I mean, if the South African police services want to improve its relationship with civilian society or improve civilian police relations, this is not the way to go about. I mean, what message do you send to the families of the aggrieved parties if a commemorative event, a peaceful event, a small event in which ministers and senior politicians of this government will be present, and you can't have it at the police station? I think it just raises very serious questions about the nature of our democracy.
I mean, has any reason been given? That's an astonishing decision by the South African Police Service.
Well, I haven't, all we know is we've got a letter from them, which the CEO of the Kathrada Foundation, Mr. Bolton, received as late as yesterday. After the formal approval was given, a site visit was conducted with the Metro Police, the police station, the people in charge of the police station itself, last week already, and there was no indication that there would be no approvals for this. And the green light was given, as I said, only to discover that now the permission has been withdrawn. The reasons that are given, I don't really think hold water. They are really flimsy as far as I can establish. And we'll hear this afternoon as to what actually transpired. But it is tragic that in a democracy such as ours, when we're trying to commemorate the life of a revolutionary who died in the precincts there, who fell from the 10th floor under mysterious circumstances, that even the authorities can't honor that life, and that we have to have this event on the outside on the streets.
Ismail Vadi, thank you very much indeed. I do appreciate the time. One of the people paying tribute tonight to Ahmed Timol, who died on this day, as we know, pushed out of the 10th floor, out of a window on the 10th floor of what was then the John Vorster Square police station in Johannesburg.